Good evening. This is CTV News, and I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Byron Scott. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, MGM and county officials say they're ready to deal with traffic issues when the resort opens its doors on December 8th. Casino officials say parking lots will hold more than 5,000 cars, and the lots will be monitored by cameras to keep traffic flowing to the appropriate areas. Police officials say officers will be posted at more than a dozen locations on the property. MGM is in council chambers. Member O.E. Patterson's district. He says many residents are still not satisfied with how the traffic in that area will be handled.
I still think we have a long ways to go. I'm concerned about so little, so late. We're talking about 2 months before it opens up. Certainly at this point, we can't build infrastructure. So this should have been, in my opinion, put on the front end of the burn a long time ago.
So is it fair to say people are as concerned now as they were 2 days ago?
Well, I think, in all honesty, we know it's going to be. So we're just trying to figure out, how can we take a bad situation and improve it to the point that we can have a good quality of life.
County officials say they are setting up parking permit programs for neighborhoods that would help prevent visitors from parking on neighborhood streets.
Well, what behaviors in a relationship qualify as being abusive? If the answer were so simple, domestic violence would be easier to detect. But as we've learned from our experts and survivors, the abuse is non-discriminatory. It crosses every racial, gender, and economic line. And sometimes the non-physical scars run deeper.
A domestic violence victim can be anyone. I've met with a wide range of people, a lot of different professions, a lot of different status.
Carolyn Mulligan is the domestic violence coordinator at Prince George's Hospital. Her role entails meeting with patients who doctors and nurses have identified as possible abuse victims.
Have you been hit? Have you been slapped? Have you been choked? Then people start saying yes, and they might identify themselves as a victim.
Sophie Ford is the director of the county's Family Crisis Center. She says domestic violence is hard to identify.
That's one of the most challenging things for people. There is no look in terms of what it could actually look like when it's being done. And there is no look in terms of what a victim will look like. It really is, and I tell people all the time, it's an equal opportunity destroyer.
White, black, Latino, it doesn't matter, it is happening. We find that it's reported less often, for example, in Latino communities and in some of the immigrant communities, because there are grave concerns about involving the criminal justice system, where you may potentially have, for example, undocumented residents who may be concerned about, if I go there, will this mean I'll be deported?
Domestic violence isn't always a slap or a punch.
The abuse I suffered was not physical at all. 80% of victims don't have physical scars to prove that they're victims. The first assault to domestic abuse is a verbal assault.
It can also look like financial abuse, where a person is the primary breadwinner in their family and they're withholding earnings from a person, or they use the shelter or food that they provide or clothing that they provide to keep a person under control.
There were incidents where he crashed into the garage not once but 3 times. He made the house unlivable, where it was uninhabited for me to even stay there when he came by, and bust all the toilet tanks, turned all the water on, flooded the home where I couldn't even live in the home. So I had no choice but to leave.
And psychological and emotional abuse can really look like where people are being verbally demeaned and really put down day to day, so that their self-worth is so low that they believe that they're not worthy of love, not capable of being loved, and really stay in this relationship because they feel like no one else will want them.
CTV News will have more stories on this important social issue in the coming days as the country observes Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Some leaders in the region are split on a tax to help pay for Metro. A new 1% sales tax would cover the transit agency's long-term funding needs, according to a presentation delivered at a regional summit. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is in favor of it as a dedicated source of revenue. However, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan is not, and Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe is in the middle. The money would pay for Metro's operating deficit and invest in a new rail car as well as other upgrades. You are watching CTV News. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Byron Scott.